Hi there, welcome to your 2023 Surveyor 252Rble. We are just going to start off with the back of the unit. If you notice at the top, you're pre-mounted for an observation camera. If you'd like to get set up with that, you can contact the parts department. They can be more than happy to help you out. On the right, you are going to have your little ladders, so you can get up and check your roof out periodically. You are going to have to make sure you do your seal check periodically. It's going to be very important you look into your owner's manual. It will explain to you how often you need to do it. It's important to keep up with all those seals, especially for up on the roof. It's what's keeping the rest of the unit pretty much from rotting, so it's going to be important to keep up on that. You get your spare tire at the back, and then if you come around to the driver's side, I'll give you access from both sides. Pulling that bumper cap, typically where you're going to want to store your sewer hose after your first use. We currently have a brand new one located inside the front compartment, which is why there's not one in there yet, but after your first use, that's probably going to be where you're going to want to store it. It just keeps as much smell out of the unit as possible. Get your first of 4 stabilizer jacks with the stabilizer jack in all 4 corners. They all work the same way. First and foremost, it's most important that you do level the unit before you try stabilizing it, because these are stabilizing jacks, not leveling jacks. If you try and use them to level the unit, there is the risk you run of bending them. But essentially how it works is you just hook up your 3/4 inch drive tool, your 3/4 inch drive nut, run this foot down to the ground. Once the foot does contact the ground, just give it another 8/4 turn, snug it up. It's going to take any bouncing sway you see we have in the unit right now away. And then if you look underneath here, you got your 2 low point drains. So those are going to be, if you're leaving the unit for a while and don't want water going stale or stagnant, or once you completed your winterization process, it's always a good measure to crack those guys open. And then you come to your drain outlet, take that cap, twist it off. Your sewer hose is going to have the same ears. You got your black valve, which is the one you're going to want to empty first, and then you can come behind that with your gray valve. It's typically a little cleaner water filled from your sinks and your showers. You got your standard 30 amp twist lock connection. You're just taking note of that little slot there. It lines up with this slot on this side. Line those 2 up into place, 8th turn to lock it in, and then you got that threaded collar to really lock it down. If you follow that cord back, you do have your standard 30 amp plug end. Most campsites should have this. You can plug right on in, but let's say if you have the unit at home, or your campsite only has a 15 amp outlet, which is your standard household outlet. We do include that 15 amp park adapter. It'll be inside that starter kit. Just keep it in mind whenever you are using it, you're going down in 15 amps of power, so realistically it's just to run your fridge and your lights. You won't be able to run your air conditioner. City water, so if you're at a site with service, you just start a garden hose in there, turn it on. It's going to pressurize all those lines without the need to turn your water pump. And then to the right of it, you do get your black tank flush. I always recommend using it pretty much every use. It just helps break down all the solids that are inside of the tank. But before using it, it's always important that you do have to have the sewer hose connected and the black valve open. And the reason being is if you're pushing pressure inside of that tank, that pressure does have to have somewhere to go. Coming up forward ahead here, you're going to get your fresh tank fill. So if you're out boondocking, your campsite just doesn't have water, you can put a garden hose in there, turn it on, and that's going to be how you would fill up that fresh tank. The drain for that is just down right below here. Looking underneath the trailer is another one of those little valves. You just have to turn it, and then you do get access to the hot water service port. 1/8" drain bolt down there at the bottom, and then you do get this pressure relief valve. So basically what you want to do when you first get to your campsite is just to hit that pressure relief valve. There should be a shot of water coming out of there letting you know that the tank's full and safe to fire up. Because this unit's winterized, obviously we got no water coming out. It's in the middle of winter here, and we are getting this ready for you for your spring pickup. Inside this compartment, you got 4 screws holding this panel in, and that is where you're going to get access to the back of this water heater for those winterization valves. It's also where you're going to find your water pump to get to that bypass hose. Coming around to the front of the unit, you got your disconnect switch right down there at the front A-frame. With that there, with it in the on position, you're connected, the batteries are connected to the unit. If you return to the off position, the batteries would then become disconnected from the unit. Loosen off these tabs on the top of this cover, flip the cover back. Most of the time for your day-to-day use, you can get everything you need done like that. But for the purpose of the video, and at some point you will for sure have to be removing this. It is just as simple as pulling it on. It does just slide right out of place. You're going to notice you got 2 standard tanks. Obviously, with the valve pointed to this way, you're drawing off this tank, so you would just have to go counterclockwise like any standard barbecue, nice and slow, to open up the flow propane. Now, if this tank were to go empty, you just have to close it, switch this over to this side, and then you can start drawing off this tank while that one's getting filled up. Inside here, just the other side of your storage compartment. Goes right through to the other side. Again, this is where you're gonna find your starter kit. You got this little hose here, if you follow me to the back. You got your little spray nozzle. Lift on that cap, it pops out of place. At that point, you just take a note of each little collar on each side. Push, twist, locks into place. You got sprayable hot and cold water. You got your griddle, which is going to go inside that rear compartment. I'll go a little bit over how to fire it up, but it does work pretty simple. Main entryway door, which we will be entering through today. But first, we'll finish off the rest of the outside. You got your furnace exhaust. Whenever your furnace is on, this will be blowing out hot air, so just be mindful of that. Right up top, you get the vent for your range hood. Whenever you're camping, I always recommend loosening that off, pop it out of place. That way, once you do turn on your range hood, you're evacuating those fumes as you need to. But whenever you're not using it, you got it in storage, or if you're traveling, always trying to remember to snap that back into place. That's just going to stop any excess dust from getting inside the unit and protects you from keeping critters out a little bit more. And then in the back compartment, you do get a little exterior store use area. Pull on this tray. This slides right into place. At that point, you can slide this over, flop this up. This is where your griddle will just mount right on top of. Pretty simple. The quick connect line will run right down underneath the floor to this guy here, where you pull off that dust cap. Then you can pull back on that collar, insert it into place exactly like an airline, and pop it back in, and you're good to go. But you got that little valve. You do have to actually open the flow of propane now for the griddle to operate. And then as an added safety feature, you can't operate the couple with the flow of propane open, so you do have to also close that propane valve to get it unconnected. And always remembering to put your dust cap in place whenever you're not using this, just to try and keep as much dust and debris out of that line as possible. Then you got your 110 mini fridge. This will work if it's hooked up to shore power. It is not 12 volts. Keep that in mind. It's really just a drink fridge. And now for the best part, to take a step on inside, you're just going to take that assist handle, push it up, folding it 90 degrees. That'll lock it into place. That'll allow you to open up your door. You have to have your door open all the way to get your stairs down. Once your stairs are like this, pull on this, pull the door in. They are adjustable. You just have to push on the silver tabs. It'll slide into the corresponding channels, so you can have nice and level stairs for your campsite. The end goal is to have this black plate as close to the silver catch plate as possible. That way this door can close and open freely without binding or causing any scraping. And now taking a step inside, first thing you notice off on the left is that fire extinguisher, which is just like home. Pull the pin and shoot. And then right up top, you got an interior light switch on the far right, which turns on most of the main living space lights, so you can see what you're doing, especially if you get somewhere and it's dark. You got a porch light turning on. Turns on the porch light outside. Awning LED switch, which turns on a little strip light inside the awning. Then you get your slide out control. Before you ever operate your slide out, especially with a unit like this where it's so easy to get access to the slide out, it's always a good measure to just do a quick visual check inside and outside. And the reason I say inside is you just want to make sure that nothing's shifted during travel. That's going to get stuck in between the slide out and the wall, causing any sort of damage, especially on the rear side, making sure none of those doors popped open for any sort of reasons. And then just of course on the outside, making sure you have enough room to push it all the way out without running it inside. Once you do that, you can start making that slide out make its way out by pushing down on the button. Slide out's going to start making its way out. Once that slide out does reach its full extension, you hear the motors wind up and click. Now it's always a good measure to do full strokes if you can, to go in or out with the slide out. It's just that much easier on the gears and the motors, but we do know that isn't always possible. So like I said, it is a good idea to do full strokes when you can, but we do know that's not always possible. Last but not least, you do have the switch for your awning. Push and hold the extend button. The awning's going to start making its way out. Now before we do that, I'll go over a couple notes. Always keep an eye on the wind speeds before putting your awning out. If the wind speeds are high, don't put it out. And if you already have it out, make sure you bring it in. It acts exactly like a wind sail, and it will rip right off or bend something, causing you money, which probably doesn't make you happy. So keep an eye on the wind speeds. Now, unfortunately today I don't think we're gonna be able to go all the way out just due to space. So that's gonna be all about we're gonna go there. Now you would know you're at your full extension if you see that little flap start to hang down or the back of the metal tube, because sometimes that flap can get stuck, so you might just have to retract it a couple feet, put it back out again, and come out properly. Now if we're to start reading, you can take any arm, front or rear, pull down to the center, it changes the pitch of the awning head, allowing the water to now run off. Now if you like that angle better, because of course it allows for more shade underneath, you do the same thing with the front arm. Just make sure that you push both arms back to straight before you try and bring the awning in. That way you don't run the risk of bending anything. And then bring it in. It's just as simple as holding retract. The awning is going to start making its way in. Once the arms contact the side of the trailer, the motors will automatically cut out. I'm not going to bore you with that though. I can do that after the video. First, we will start off at the front of the trailer. It's kind of the bedroom area. Tons of storage space in this unit, but whenever you are using any of it, and that goes for outside and inside storage, just be mindful of drains, water lines, and wiring. You're not going to be wanting to affect any of that too much. You got plugins on both sides of the bed. Now that just goes for regular plugins as well as USB plugins. Inside the bed, in that back nook area, you do get cup holders and a little bit of like a shelf space. Nice little shade right there at that front window. Now all the blinds in the unit do work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. Or just pull them all the way up to get them all the way up. If you pick up at the foot of the bed, it does give you access to a massive storage area. If you didn't know it was there, it's kind of hidden. Great for putting blankets. Fire exit on my far left. Grab that red tab, pull it. The screen's gonna pop right out of place. At that point, you can take this handle, fold it out, push it out, and hop on out of the unit. Of course, just be mindful of how far you have to go down. It's probably going to be a good idea to go feet first, but if there is a fire, just getting out as quickly as possible is very important. Over here, you got your two coax plugins, but the TV mount is actually on this wall here. If you do mount it on this wall, just be cautious as there might not be a backer here. Sliding door, big thing. This little travel strap, it's important you do strap it, because if you don't strap it and you start traveling, this door is able to slide freely. It's probably going to slide around. It might rip off the hinges and cause yourselves a bunch of damage, and we don't want that. So just be careful and always double check that you do have that travel strap on there before you start going. On the wall here, we are going to have the thermostat for the unit. It does work pretty simple. Kind of just like home. Push and hold the power button. That's gonna turn it on. It's gonna bring you your last known setting. So in this situation, it's fan. You're just moving air around using the air conditioner. No heating or cooling involved. So whenever you are running the air conditioner, you have a couple different options. You can leave it with these levers closed, in which case it moves all its air through the ceiling ducting you have throughout. Or you can open it up, in which case it acts as a, sorry, this one is glued shut. So this is gonna have a quick, it's already gonna have a high flow duct. So disregard all of that. The only option you do have is to leave it closed because it has a high flow system installed. Right here, to keep that high flow flowing, there's a little bit of a filter. So you gotta grab this tab, these two tabs, pull on them, this will pop down. This black screen will be stuck to this piece of plastic. You just pull it off, give it a blow out with some compressed air. Again, this is the intake filter for the air conditioner, so it sucks all its air through there, so make sure it's nice and clean, keep that flow flowing. After that, push the button. The power button's exactly like the mode button. After fan, you go into dry. So dry is just a dehumidifying mode to try and take as much moisture out of the air as possible. One more time, you're gonna go over to cool. Now, whenever you are in the cool setting, up or down at any time to change your set desired temperature, and then you got your fan speed setting. So you're gonna notice it is in low now. So whenever you are in a high or low option, it means that the fan is gonna run continuously until you actually manually turn the system off. The setting I recommend is the automatic setting, the A. That just means it's an on-demand system. So you heard it kick out, and that's because we have our room set to 72, and it's already 69 in here, so there's no need to run that air conditioner. But as you could tell before, it was running full time just because you had that fan setting on heat, high or low, which is why I recommend running the automatic. And my next point is when we go to switch over to heat, which we're going to do right now, If you weren't in that automatic setting and you had that fan on either high or low, it's going to continue to stay there and continue to run that fan as well as your air conditioner or your furnace fan. Your furnace is its own entity. It runs off propane, and it only has one fan setting. It moves all its air through the floor portals you have throughout the unit. Now, before you go to fire up your furnace, it is always a good idea to purge the system first. I'm going to go over purging once we get to our stove. But one more time after that, brings you over to high, push and hold, or fan. Just push and hold the power button to turn the system right off, and it turns it off. Once the furnace is fired up, just keep in mind it does run for an additional 3 minutes to allow itself time to cool down as an added safety feature. We have another fire exit over here. It's going to work the same way as the bedroom one. Inside the slide out area, you got this nice, lovely light. It's on its own center push button with a little accent light. You're going to notice that with quite a few lights around here, there's a bunch that are on their own center push buttons. You can kind of find them as you use the unit. This area is also treated as a guest space because you can remove the feet from underneath the table, set your tabletop on its desired ledges, and then take your back cushions, fill in the center, and you can have yourself another bed in case you had any extra guests you weren't intending on. Below that, you got your LP detector. Now, that's just because you're equipped with propane inside of here. Now, the only thing you really need to know about this is if it starts going off, turn off the main supply of propane at the front of the unit and open up some windows and vents. Don't panic. It's not that big of a deal as long as you deal with it right away. Entertainment center, again, pretty much self-explanatory. It's just like home, minus the fact of the stereo. You're going to have zone 1 and zone 2. Zone 1 will be interior, zone 2 will be exterior. In the kitchen space, tons of storage space, counter space. A lot of campers don't always have that, so it's nice to see. You got a lovely cutting board that Surveyor does include right down there at the back. They also even leave you this little cup, which I thought was kind of nice. And they leave you a spot for knives even. Nice guys. Right down below, you got your central vac system. Slide that over, insert your tool. You'd be able to suck your way through the unit. If you noticed that the suction isn't as good as it has been, you can pull on this tab. That'll allow you to open this up. You can give that bag a check. The bags are replaceable. We sell them here at the shop. If you wanted to get any replacement ones, again, just contact our parts department. They'd be more than happy to help you out. Power button on the far left. And then you got this little thing down at the bottom here. Lift it open. It's going to suck whatever's in front of it inside of it. Now just keep it in mind, it is mainly just for dust, gravel, dirt. You're not going to be wanting to put any sticks or anything sharp inside of there because, again, it just gets sucked into that bag for your central vac. So now that we are at my stove, before I talk about the stove, there's one thing I did forget to go over. You got your solar controller here on the wall. I didn't go over it. There's not really much to go over, to be honest. There is a bunch of different settings you can play with when it comes to it, but it does get really in-depth, so I will recommend going over the owner's manual before you start playing with it. But it is currently set up for your basic charging needs. If there's sun outside hitting the solar panel, it'll be applying a charge to your front battery. Back to the stove. Because this unit's propane, I'll go over a few notes. The tanks at the front, if you ever disconnect them or if you leave them off for a period of time because the unit's in storage because you're not using it, it does allow air into the system. Once air makes its way in, it has to be purged out. Quickest, easiest way to do that, and I tell every customer I talk to this, is whenever you first get to your campsite, just fire up your stove quickly. It's just that sure shot way to get propane flowing, because if you went to go to fire up your water heater, your furnace, and you didn't purge the system, those will only try lighting themselves a couple times, and if they don't sense a flame because there's no actual gas getting to it yet, it could throw a fault code. And if you don't know what the fault code means, it could throw a little wrench into your weekend, especially when it comes to something like heat. So fire up your stove first thing, but because it's a gas stove, again, just being safe while doing so, so always recommend running a range hood, sucking up the fumes as you're creating them, and then of course when you're lighting it, keep your face far away. And as soon as you do turn on that gas valve, just be ready with the sparker. You're going to want to engage the sparker every few seconds. That's just going to help for that. Once gas does start coming through, you light it right away, because if you didn't light it right away and it started to build up a little bit and then there was an ignition source, there could be a little minor poof, combustion, and if your face is nearby, you're probably going to lose eyebrows and eyelashes, and we don't want that. You don't either. So again, gas valve on, come over right away, fires up. Now, it doesn't usually fire up this quickly, especially if it's not purged, It fired up this quickly today. That's only because I had the system running earlier. Sometimes it can take a few minutes, so please be patient with it. It should fire up. To get your stove to light, the same idea, but again, it can take even longer just because the gas orifice for the pilot is so small. So turn it over to the pilot option, push and hold the knob in, give it a few seconds, and then start hitting that sparker. Down there at the back is where that gas orifice is, dip back right. Now you see what I mean by it took a few tries. You do just have to be patient with it. Once that pilot's able to stay lit on its own without you pressing in on the button, it's ready for it to be fired up to its desired temperature. Fridge on our right. The controls for that are all right over here. It's this one knob. You're gonna notice this off-grid rating. That's just letting you know the most energy efficient setting to run it off if you're running it off of battery power. Then that last option is going to be the coldest option. It does come with a charcoal filter. If you're wondering what it's for, it's to help with fridge odors. Again, we sell replacement ones here at the shop. Just get into contact with the parts department. And then right down below, get your main fuse and breaker panel. Whenever you have a breaker trip, it'll sit in the middle, so you just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. All the corresponding fuses are on the right. Inside here is just some crazy big pantry space. Put all sorts of snacks. And then into the bathroom, light switch on the right. Again, another sliding door to be very cautious with and making double, triple checking that it is latched. Above my head, you got this roof vent. If you're dropping a stinker, you can crack that open by opening it clockwise. Now, you're gonna notice it opens straight up into the atmosphere. So if you went to go walk away and it started raining, it is gonna get wet inside of here. Unless, of course, you went with a max air cover. It's a cover that'll go over top of this vent lid. It's going to stop it from getting wet inside of here in case it were to start raining. It's also going to give you a little added extra protection against hail. Again, if you'd like to get set up with something like that, it is as easy as contacting your parts department. In the shower, you get a shower space, sliding shower door. And then you come to your main, I would call it the main water area. So you do have a heated holding tank system. It's for extended camping seasons. But keeping in mind, our Manitoba winters get way too cold for this to be adequate. Realistically, this is for that like 1 to 5 degree range mark. If you're camping below anything below -0, you run the risk of things freezing. That is just the way it is, unfortunately. Your water heater, you can either fire it on gas or electric. If you go to fire it on electric, again, quadruple check that the tank is already full, because it only takes a few seconds for that probe to be out of water when you fire it up for it to burn itself out. They're about, don't quote me on this, I'm not in parts, I think they're about 120 bucks to fix, so it does get pretty pricey pretty quick. If you go to fire it on gas, you just hit that button. Water heater is going to try lighting itself 3 times. Again, make sure it's purged. And then if it doesn't light on the 3rd try, the DSI fault light's going to come on at that point. Just turn that switch off. Give it about a minute to 3 minutes to reset, and then try turning it back on. Holding tank system, pushing the button tells you the corresponding level. And then you get your main GFI plug here on this back side. If you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, this would be the first place I would look. You got test on the left, reset in the middle. Now that is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.